What is going on, everybody? I am the FDGURU, bringing to you guys an NBA Tuesday edition of my DFS podcast. We have two games on the slate again. We're going to continue to have these two-game slates, and they're going to be very similar each day because the same teams are playing each other throughout the rest of this week. GBP lineup did really well last night. The cash team almost hit tournaments. And then depending on the cash games you were in, it could have won. And then the single game lineup I put on my dub club for that second game easily cashed as well for the Mavericks and Thunder game. Doing the same deal tonight, cash and GBP on my website for the main slate. And then for all you dub club members, you'll be getting that extra single game slate posted later on tonight for that Timberwolves and Nuggets game. And hopefully we can do what we did yesterday. Still in a slump with MLB, waiting for the, tables to turn with that. But it was nice to have an overall profitable night in NBA last night. I like this slate. I mean, it's the same, like I said, it's the same slate we've seen for the past, few games in these series. And I think we're going to be able to do something special tonight. A couple of questionable guys, but it's nothing crazy. These guys are going to all play because they're questionable every game, and they end up playing 40 minutes. Jamal Murray, Tyrese Halliburton. We still have OG Anunoby out, which is obviously a big deal for the Knicks. But we'll get into it. I think there's a lot of decent value guys as prices have dropped. We can get guys like Jokic and Brunson in the same lineup, in my opinion. So for point guard, I do like Jamal Murray, though. 8,100. This series has been wild. There hasn't been a home team who has, won in this series. Timberwolves stole the first two games in Denver, and then Denver stole the next two games in Minnesota. I do think the Nuggets are going to win and be that first home team victory in this series, just because the Nuggets looked so unlike themselves in the first two games. Got out to a slow start out of the gates and then never really found their true rhythm. Seeing them look like normal again in Minnesota after being down 2-0 to, take away both games on the road, that is, the number one way to, get your mojo back and get things rolling. I do think they come back home with a lot of confidence here, with those first two games out of their head, with the recent success that they've had in games 3 and 4. So I do like the Nuggets a lot tonight. Jamal Murray, 8,100. He's been right around 8K. He's going to play 37 to 40 minutes, and he looks really good. Last two games, I'm not going to look at the first two games of the series because, like I said, the Nuggets were not themselves, and everyone played bad, not just Jamal Murray. The last two games when they've looked better, especially Aaron Gordon, who just absolutely went off last game for a 50 spot. Just everyone on the Nuggets looked a lot better in game 3 and 4, and Jamal Murray's going to be needed. That half-court heave he had, I don't know if you guys saw it, but you got to look it up, with Kevin Harlan calling it when he hits it at the scorer's table. It was absolutely electric. He just goes right in Jamal Murray's face while he's calling it. An unbelievable shot. He was like 10 feet behind half-court along the sideline, and he absolutely drilled it, nothing but net. Murray just overall looks like he's got his stuff going again. He looks healthier. He still is apparently battling a calf injury, but he's looked a lot healthier over the last two games. I do like Jamal Murray at 8,100. Shooting guard, if you're not spending up on Anthony Edwards, which I wouldn't suggest, I think Brunson and Jokic are way better options. And I think DiVincenzo's a little too expensive now, too, at 7,800. Just because he really relies on scoring. If he's not getting 25 plus points, he's not going to hit value, and that's a lot to ask for. He doesn't do a lot on defense or rebounding. Almost 8K is too high. So shooting guard, in my opinion, is just a position that you spend down on and you move on with your lives. Alec Burks ain't going to do what he's done the first two games. He only played a lot last game because it was a 30-point blowout. That first game, he would have played 12 minutes, but because he was hitting every three he took, he stayed in the game. If the game's competitive tonight and Alec Burks doesn't shoot 4 for 5 from 3 out of the gate. He's not going to play more than 15 minutes. So I don't think he's in play at all. I think people are going to game hawk, these two games and think he's a lock for 20 plus fantasy points. He absolutely is not. The only two guys I think are Andrew Nemhard and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Granted, they're not the best players, but they're both sub 5K, and shooting guard on FanDuel is an atrocious position tonight. So I'll put Nemhard in for now. KCP looks good too. I can't really imagine going anywhere else. Maybe Christian Brown played 25 minutes last game. You could look towards him, but it's very, very risky as he gets single-digit fantasy points more often than not. Justin Holiday has provided a little bit of a spark off of their bench, but he's in the same boat as Christian Brown. Just too risky. I mean, if they come out and get you 5 fantasy points, it screws you. So I think it's a little bit more comfortable spending an extra $1,000 on KCP/Nemhard. Nemhard's going to play a lot. He didn't play as much last game. He did hit the most important shot of the game, though, that 35-foot three-pointer that he barely got out of his hands somehow went in at the end of that game. That was 2 games ago, sorry, because they blew out the Knicks last game. That's why he only played 21 minutes. I was wondering why he played such little, but May 10th was the game on Sunday, I think it was. Does that make sense? Sunday, yeah. He played 30 minutes and hit that game-winning shot, and he only had 5 points, but we can expect him to play 26 to 37 minutes we saw against the Bucks in one of those games. 39, 37. TJ McConnell has been on a different planet right now. We know he doesn't play enough. Like, now that he's at, a high price of $5,600, yes, he's had some huge games. It's just hard to project him out to continue to do this stuff when he only plays 20 to 22 minutes a game. He needs like 28 fantasy points. You could go to him for a high risk, high reward type play. I can never, before the game starts, convince myself that TJ McConnell's a good play on paper. He just doesn't play enough. I don't know. He's been crazy, but then he also has the ultimate floor where, if he doesn't play really well, he's only going to play 15 to 18 minutes, and he can easily get you, 11 to 15 fantasy points. And at that price, that will sink you quick. He's been all over the place. He hasn't even gotten anything in the middle. He really gets like 12 to 15 or 30 to 40. It's honestly, he's very, very hard to predict. I'm not saying he's unplayable because he has that upside. It's just at 5,600, I can never convince myself. Nemhard has a lot more solidified minutes as a starter, and again, he only played 21 minutes last game because they won by 30. So no matter what Nick or Pacer player you look at, do not take any data from last game because it was a 30-point game. They're back in New York now at the Garden. It's a 2-point spread in the favor of the Knicks. So this game, more likely than not, will remain competitive. You cannot project or predict a huge blowout like we saw last game. You got to look at all the games before last game. And Nemhard, he plays good minutes. He's not a huge usage guy, but he'll get his assists, and he can get double-digit points. Anything over 20 fantasy points we'll feel pretty good about for Nemhard. Small forward, Josh Hart got 6 fantasy points last game, and he went up $500. That's insane. $8,700. I don't know if I can pay that for Josh Hart. I know he's a rebounding freak. He makes no sense. He's like 6'4", 6'5", and he seems to out-rebound every other guy on the court. It's honestly remarkable, the playoff run that this guy's had. Again, do not look at last game. I just think 8,700 is too much for him. I'd way rather look at Jamal Murray, Jalen Brunson, Nikola Jokic. Too much in my opinion. I can't believe his price went up after that, blowout last game. Already talked about DiVincenzo being too expensive. Michael Porter was $7K or $7,100 last game, dropped all the way down to $6,200. He has a nice ceiling, but has some risk. I wouldn't really look at last game and use that as any sort of projection. Before last game, a $6,200 salary looks really good on Michael Porter. He needs like 30 fantasy points, so he's not a bad play. I'm not even picking him in this video. I didn't even realize that his price dropped almost $1,000. He also got overshadowed because Aaron Gordon had like a career game. Whenever guys go off, you're just going to see the other guys not do anything because it's just an unusual game. Aaron Gordon will not have that type of usage again. Michael Porter is very much in play at $6,200. I did not notice how much his price dropped, but here I'm going to go cheap again. Aaron Nesmith is always going to look good at sub 5K. Needs, anything over 20 fantasy points we're going to feel good about. Only played 24 minutes last game in the blowout, but went 8 and 12 for 26 fantasy points. He gets 20 plus fantasy points more than not. So I like this play. In a competitive game, he's going to play anywhere from 30 to 38 minutes. Looks like one of the better value plays here tonight. Aaron Nesmith, very, very much in play. Power forward, we're gonna go to Isaiah Hartenstein. With no OG Anunoby, we can expect Precious Achiuwa to start, but his minutes are not secure. He's going to play anywhere from, 20 to 28 minutes. Miles McBride we've seen Miles McBride play more minutes than Achiuwa in both games without OG Anunoby. Achiuwa's still in play now that he's only 4,500. He was 5K last time. 4,500 looks decent. I don't mind him. Needs to be about a fantasy point per minute if he's going to play 20 to 25 minutes, which he can definitely do because he can get some blocks, rebounding, all that. But I like Isaiah Hartenstein. Again, we can't look at last game. Everyone got blown out. It was a blowout. Doesn't matter. Before that, we can project Isaiah Hartenstein with no Mitchell Robinson to play 36 to 40 minutes tonight. And now he's all the way down to 5,900. That first game without Mitchell Robinson, he was over 7K. And he got 42 fantasy points. I'm honestly shocked his price dropped so much. Didn't play so good that next game, getting 25 fantasy points in 38 minutes. But it was just not an efficient game for him. His usual floaters that he shoots, his little push floaters that he's usually really good with, they were not dropping that game. He only had 6 points. And then obviously last game, the blowout. I think it's the best value play on the board tonight. There's no way I'm not picking Hartenstein. In a close game here, he's going to push 40 minutes in a Tom Thibodeau rotation, and he's going to project out for well over 30 fantasy points. So Hartenstein, he's the one guy that I don't think needed to drop his price. He should remain at 7K. Easy play now at 5,900. Can play power forward and center. One of my favorite plays on the slate. And then Jokic at center. It's nice that Hartenstein can play power forward because now we can get Jokic in at center. These raw points are huge. Obviously, he's projected the most fantasy points over anyone. He's like 10 to 12 fantasy points more than Brunson and Edwards. So those raw points are just huge. Like I was saying with Murray, the Nuggets are back. Back at home now. Looked great on the road in games 3 and 4. All because of their best player playing well, Jokic, 24 and 14 and 9, 35, 7 and 7, a combined 10 blocks and steals over those 2 games. He's active. They were treading water, and they're now, out of the water. They're gonna be favorites tonight. I didn't even look at the line, but I know they're favorites, and they seem to be very much back. 4.5 point favorites. I love Jokic tonight. We'll probably have him in all of my lineups. If I can't do a lineup where I have Jokic and Brunson, I will be favoring Jokic over Jalen Brunson. That'll do it for this video, guys. Let's get after it tonight. Again, 2-game main slate on my website, FD-GURU.com, and then that single game slate for the Timberwolves and Nuggets on my Dub Club. You can subscribe below this video for just $1. I post a ton of shit over there, so thanks for stopping by. I got an MLB video coming today too. Until next time, I am the FD Guru. Peace.